You're on the road beyond. I'm Todd Duplantis. Thanks for joining us. Ike McFadden, my co-host, he's with us tonight. Welcome, Facebook Live. Welcome, Ike.
It's good to see you. You know, we were recently talking about one of my favorite assassinated presidents.
You were a big Kennedy fan, I know. If you didn't see the last show or listen to our last show, make sure you check it out on our YouTube channel, The Road Beyond Podcast, and you can hear about a new theory involving the Jfk assassination. Kind of an interesting theory, and we've got another thing. This is like your favorite night. We talked about assassinations of JFK and RFK before because you're a Kennedy fanatic, and a skeptic as well. That's what we're talking about tonight.
Yeah, no, this is totally, if there was one show for me, it was tonight. It's got the Kennedy stuff, and also it seems like a good, proper skeptic. As a lot of people know, I'm sort of the harder to please of the two of us, the one who likes math and reality. And so, no, I'm always happy to have anyone who is a little hard to please like myself.
Well, we're going to be talking a bit about, have you heard of the Dybbuk Box? Have you heard of this?
I have not. What is that?
Okay. It's this box. It was auctioned on eBay. It was put out there. It's a Jewish symbol. It's a box, okay? And we're going to hear more about it. Anyway, this box was claimed to be haunted. There's a weird long story behind the box. Came from like a Polish family in the 1800s. Came from an estate sale. The box had a note saying it was never to be opened. Well, what do you do, Ike, when you get a box that says never to be opened?
I ask you what to do with it.
You open it, maybe? Of course you would. So the box was opened. Apparently bad things happened. This box, Ike, is well known all over the web. In fact, Sam Raimi, you know who he is, right?
He's the guy who wrote and directed Evil Dead, I believe.
Yeah, well, he did a movie on this. I mean, it's taken over social media. Post Malone, maybe familiar with him, he's even got a story about these haunted boxes. Well, tonight's guest is here to debunk the Dybbuk Box, along with other paranormal topics.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to hear anyone debunk anything we talk about. So this is Kenny Biddle, sometimes referred to as the token skeptic, maybe more than a token. He's a science enthusiast who likes to take a closer look at claims involving paranormal experiences, the equipment people use to search for strange things, and the evidence, or lack thereof, presented for ghosts, UFOs, and cryptids. Kenny promotes science, God bless him, critical thinking, God bless him, and skepticism, God bless him, through his blog, I Am Kenny Biddle, his YouTube channel, and in-depth articles for, oh, God bless him, the Skeptical Inquirer magazine. That's a good one.
Do you subscribe to that?
So he's exactly right up my alley, and he has a lot of stuff to share with us.
Every Friday night, he also hosts the Skeptical Help Bar Q&A podcast. That's pretty cool. And he's one of three co-hosts of another podcast called Three Tortured Souls. Please welcome Kenny Biddle to the show. Kenny, thanks for being here. You're already very welcomed by my co-host, Ike, because he's a skeptic as well.
Awesome. How you guys doing?
We're great, man. Good to have you. I'll see you got your little studio going there as well. That's pretty cool behind you. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, the Dybbuk Box. I'm somewhat familiar with the movie that was made about it. Not really familiar with this box. I just kind of glazed over it in the opening, but maybe you can tell us exactly what the heck this thing is.
It's a liquor bar. It's exactly what it is. It's not a Jewish wine cabinet. It is not a mystical box that houses a demon. The basic story is you went over the general details of it, but basically Kevin Manis, the gentleman that started the eBay auction, he claims to have picked it up at an auction, an estate sale, and that he was warned not to open it. And then, like you said, as soon as he got it back to his shop, he opened it and then looked at the stuff inside. No big deal, left. Depending on the story, it was a few hours or a few days later where stuff started happening, and he finally had to sell it on eBay for a whopping $140.
How much did he invest in this? Do you know?
I don't know exactly, but it couldn't have been that much. Because it sounded like a little detail that you might not know about it is that the box that he has is actually it's missing pieces. It's missing a lot of pieces in it. The crap that he has in there for like the whole Jewish background. As I was told by several rabbis, you can pick them up at any Jewish merchandise store. You can pick them up. It's no big deal. But yeah, so it's missing actual pieces. The glassware that came with the original set and the dividers where the bottles used to go. There was like a vodka, whiskey, and a scotch bottle that were in there. So lots of stuff that are missing. So, that's the basic story. It eventually fell in the hands of Zach Baggins and made a special where they went all crazy. The first special, they didn't even do anything with it because they promoted that they were going to open it and then they chickened out. And then they released the video of that Post Malone thing, which is that's just silly. I'm not even going to bother with that part. And now, it's promoted as something like one of the most haunted or possessed or cursed things in the world, and it's not.
I know Ike's got a question for you, but I've got one thing. Did you ever see back in the 80s the Geraldo Rivera event?
Yes.
Where he went to Al Capone's basement and was going to open stuff up, show it to you live, and it turned out to be a whole bunch of nothing.
Yeah.
Does that kind of remind you of this?
Yes. Yeah. It's a whole lot of nothing, but in this day where we're in a time where you can, if you get that niche story that no one else has done, it goes viral. Boom. That's it. Everybody just accepts it. It gets on TV, especially if it's on TV. Right. Holy crap. If you put something on TV, everybody wants it. So it's very popular, and that's it. And then when Rami made the movie about it, The Possession, that just skyrocketed its reputation. And then that spawned an entire eBay and Etsy line of cursed boxes, because you can buy yourself a Dybbuk box now for $60, $100, and you can buy like 5, 6, or 7 of them because there are plenty out there.
So, Kenny, let me ask you a question. It's a question I ask myself almost every week, which is, as a skeptic, why do you do this? There's a part of, I'm guessing, like me, there's a part of you that is interested in this stuff and wants to believe and is just sort of beaten down repeatedly by the nonsense. How do you, what gets you into this enough to even talk to us?
Well, one, you asked. So I never shy away from a confrontation or a conversation or anything. There's no reason to. But what keeps me going is, I started as a ghost hunter. So back in the 1990s, I was a ghost hunter. I was on a ghost hunting team. I did the whole thing. And then I slowly learned more about photography and actually got into photography as a second job. And the more I learned about that, the more I realized like a lot of the crap that we were getting on film was our fault, not the result of any supernatural forces. So that really got me thinking about it. And instead of that thrill, that horror movie kind of like horror attraction kind of thrill people get from ghost hunting, I was getting that same thrill, if not more, by solving a mystery, like doing a proper investigation, making sure that the claims were testable, going in and testing them, finding out what was causing the weird experiences, and being able to replicate them in front of the owner or the homeowner or the shop owner or whatever, and being able to solve it. Like, this is it. This is what caused it. We know what happened. Case closed. And just that alone keeps me going. It's a Scooby-Doo effect.
Yeah. Right. Well, I would assume it's sort of like me in that because you would like to see this stuff be borne out in some fashion, you're like, okay, come on, let's meet this bar. Let's get the nonsense out of the way. Let's get something that we can really look at and agree with and say, oh, well, this or that. It is something we would like to see some good evidence of.
Right. I would love to see something, like show me this big scary demon that possesses anything from a Raggedy Ann doll to people. I keep getting told, be careful what you wish for, but I wish to be participating in an event where there's an alleged demon or angry spirit or something. I really want something like that to exist because honestly, the world would be so much cooler if this magic stuff existed. It really would.
Can somebody get him a Ouija board? We'll get Kenny a Ouija board. Maybe that'll help you open up a portal of hell or something.
I actually own about 2 or 2.5 dozen different talking boards.
There you go.
They're downstairs. I've played with them all. Nothing ever happens.
Nothing. Let me ask you this, Kenny, though. When you were doing the paranormal, the ghost hunting, and weren't there, though, times and things that happened where you couldn't pick out a logical explanation and you just have to chalk it up to, well, that was just a weird experience. I don't know what happened, but something happened.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you can't solve every mystery. And the number one cause is the lack of information. Yeah. If you don't have enough information, and you can't simply work with that case. You cannot go to the resolution of it. But there's been plenty of times where I've gone into a location and either something happened while I was there, or it happened, years ago when they're retelling the event. You can't always explain it, and I'm okay with that. That's not a big deal. That just shows, hey, I'm limited in what I know, and I'm not afraid to say I don't know. I don't like when people go into a place, they think it's haunted, weird things happen. They never find a cause for any of the experiences, yet they walk out of there and say, yes, this is 100% definitely haunted. And I just look and like, no, it's not. You're making up a conclusion. That's what happens when you say some place is definitely haunted. You are fabricating your results because you collected some data. You're not sure if it's real or not, or if it's valid or not, because it's not. I guarantee 99.9% of ghost hunts are not done under scientifically controlled conditions.
Oh, absolutely.
So absolutely not. Yeah. So they're taking all this and they're walking away saying this is definitely haunted. And I'm sorry, I know you believe that you can say that, but you can't.
Well, it's only really haunted when it's a TV show. And it's possibly on one of these channels, cable channels. Mike, I wanted to ask about his blog. You want to talk about his blog?
Yes, but I wanted to ask him something else.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
If you don't mind. As I'm sure you know, there's been a fair amount of this UAP stuff coming out in the news, and there are these videos and so forth. The Tic Tac, the gimbal video, the blah, blah, blah. My take on that is most of that's not new. Right. And B, I haven't really seen anything particularly convincing there, and I've been a little surprised at the media attention it's gotten. Do you have any kind of thoughts on either of that?
I've seen most of those videos, and there's I'll definitely throw out a plug to my friend Mick West. He runs metabunk.org, awesome website, and the guy is just brilliant with being able to figure out what is going on, and he's been pretty much the national spokesperson for the skeptical side, or the skeptical view of these alleged UFOs. But a lot of them have simple explanations. If you look at the data, some of them, like the Tic Tac and those videos, there's data on the screen. And if you use that, you can figure it out for yourself. The problem is most people don't want to. They rather just dive deep into the rabbit hole, continue that conspiracy theory and put it out there and invoke excitement, because oh, look, the government's finally going to admit that there's aliens. No, no, they are not.
But let me ask you, but why is that going on now? Because, we both agree on that sort of interpretation of things. Why is there so much interest in it right now? It's
just my speculation here, but I think it's more of a distraction. It would be a brilliant distraction if you start leaking, and I'm putting air quotes up, leaking video footage with the idea that it's unidentified, not alien. You don't have to say alien, and nor have they said alien. They just said unidentified. You put it out there, and it distracts people from day-to-day lives. The real news. It's sensationalism versus the real world that people think sucks right now.
Well, some of the moves this craft is making are phenomenal. They have radar that has detected one of them at 80,000 feet, dropped to 1 foot above the water in less than a second. And I mean, what does that? What's the logical explanation behind something like that? I don't think they're going to say it's from another planet, but there's things out there doing maneuvers that we don't have technology that could create.
I think a lot of it is misunderstanding of the information that comes in. So it's not always a drop of like 1,000 feet in 1 second. It could appear that way, but unless we have the original tapes, original stories, it's very hard. There's so much misinformation out there. And I don't want to even attempt to try to explain some of the stuff because we're only speculating and there's so many variables we don't know. But again, it comes back to looking at the data that is available, not just accepting a headline. You don't accept that headline like government confirms UFOs. Read the whole story, check the references, check the people that they reference in there, and find the original stories. Because most times you'll find that it's not something. It could be something uninteresting like a Batman balloon, which is definitely one of the cases that I worked on. Yeah. So it's uninteresting. It's just something that happened to 2 points intersected. One took a picture and then released it and then didn't say anything. And then we get all this other information from people that aren't original sources. They're not primary sources. There's just a lot of crap coming from all directions. And it takes so long to sort it out. And that's where our job becomes real tedious because we have to sort through all the BS in order to find the small kernels here and there of truth and present that. And by the time we actually do that work, most of the world is involved. They're already engrossed in it. They already accepted it. And it's a constant uphill battle.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Kenny. I wish we could have you on every week. There are a lot of headlines that look good, and then you dig a little bit. And as you said, it's important to go to the source, not just someone talking about the source. And you actually look into it, and you actually look at what's known or what's unknown. And it's often kind of a big question mark. It's like, well, it was kind of too far away to see, blurry thing. And I agree with you about Mick West. He's a fantastic. He should be on Mount Rushmore at this point.
He is a smart guy. I go to him several times when I'm not sure, and we've actually tackled the same topics once in a while.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, this is as skeptics. I mean, what is there something that's crossed your radar in the last year or two that you think, okay, you know what, this is hard to explain. I don't have an easy one on this.
I couldn't give you an exact example, but there's plenty of times when I look at like a photograph. And again, it comes back to what I said earlier about the lack of information. Somebody can send me a photograph and I have no freaking clue what it is, no idea. But that's because they didn't provide enough information. They didn't know the information. And all they did was look at a photo from years before and say, oh, look, there's a strange light here. That must be a ghost. So I don't know where to go from there.
Well, let me rephrase it. What is there anything that you would be like, this is the best example of something that I've looked into and I don't have an explanation for?
The best example? Oh, wow. That's putting me on the spot. I can't think of any, really. Okay. I mean, a lot of them have just explanations. And then when I do look at them, I think I'm so comfortable with saying, I don't know what that is right now that I kind of forget about it. It goes on the back burner until new information pops up and I can readdress it. Or, hey, I learned something new. Maybe I can apply it to this case and this case. But usually I don't think of them afterwards. I hit it like I hit the wall. I'm like, all right, I think I'm done with this case. I'm going to shelf it and then I'm going to keep going. So I don't really look back until I learn something new.
Kenny, why haven't we found a Bigfoot yet?
Because, I mean, we're looking for something in sharp focus, and obviously Bigfoot is blurry. So, I mean, that's...
Everyone has a cell phone. Why don't we have a good picture of it?
He's just naturally blurry. You know what? I've been out on Bigfoot hunts, and I feel bad saying it's a joke, but it's a joke sometimes, like you go out there and I've seen they almost do exactly what you see on TV. Go out into the woods, kind of hunker down here and there, roam around, go along trails. They scream and do their Bigfoot calls out in the woods and wait for something to yell back, which they can never verify if it's just another Bigfoot hunter on the other side of the mountain. They knock on trees with sticks or bats. It's hokey. It really is hokey to me. I don't get it. I don't get what they're doing. And I mean, all the serious studies into it, like the big one that they did where they asked for various DNA samples from all around the world. And
that went nowhere a few years ago.
Nowhere. Yeah. The only thing it gave us was the knowledge that there was a hybrid polar bear.
Yeah.
That was still in existence. And that was, I mean, that by itself, I thought was interesting because that's science.
So what you're saying is you still have hope.
I still have hope. I mean, that's why I still go out. I still go, if someone invites me to on a Bigfoot hunt, or I've been on UFO investigations, I'll do those ghost hunts, exorcisms, what have you. I'll go out because I want to see it. I really want to see it. And so far, unfortunately, over the years, no one has been able to deliver. So challenge is still out there.
Kenny Biddle is his name. He is a skeptic. And Kenny, you've got a YouTube channel and a blog as well. Where can folks find you on the web?
You can find me on social media, mostly Facebook at I am Kenny Biddle. That's my blog page. I do the column for Skeptical Inquirer magazine online. It's called A Closer Look. I do my podcast on Friday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern called The Skeptical Help Bar, where you can just, we drink and we talk paranormal stuff.
That sounds right up your alley. Are you going to be there one Friday?
Absolutely. And I think that may be why he hasn't found the proof yet. He hasn't drank enough.
There you go.
Yeah.
Kenny, we appreciate you being on the show. Fascinating to have you on. We'd love to have you on again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is fun.
Kenny Biddle, thanks for being here.
You're welcome.
All right. Ike, you've got to be in heaven. Earlier on our last episode, we talked about RFK, JFK, the whole Kennedy clan, and now you've had a skeptic. I just, you just, this must be your two shows.
No, it totally is. I mean, to be somewhat serious, no, I love people like that. I love people who are, methodical thinkers, and they say, because I'm, all this stuff I'm fascinated in. I know something about it. I've read about it. I've been into it since I was young, but I still am not insane. And so I can, appreciate someone who says, well, let's nail this down. I love that kind of conversation.
Well, and I can get the whole photography thing, with problems with the way we photograph, orbs, dust on camera, could be a number of things. And I also, the first incarnation of this Road Beyond was a TV show back in 2004, 2005. We shot it as a pilot. So when you're shooting a TV show and you want it to get picked up, guess what? There are going to be things on there. You got to make it interesting to watch because people just don't want to watch going, where are the ghosts? Am I going to hear anything weird? And then you stand around for an hour going, what's going on? You gotta make it look good even when you got nothing.
So you're saying you had a lot of dusty camera lenses?
You could very well be, on it. Those orbs could be all dust on camera.
Well, so what kind of news do we have this week?
News for this week. Well, we had to skip one of the news stories last week's, but why don't we start? Did you have one you want to start with?
I did not. Over to you.
You did not. Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you about a story from Vice.com. This is from our, by the way, we do get our news stories from the Full Spectrum Project on Facebook. They're partners of ours, and they have just all types of weird stuff posted on Facebook. So make sure you check them out as the Full Spectrum Project. This story comes from Vice.com. Are you familiar with the Nazca lines in Peru?
Those are the lines that if you were very up high in a balloon, you can see some kind of like animals on the ground or something.
The weird thing about it is people think they were drawn. They actually went and they cleared away rocks and sand to create a line that you could see from, way above. If you're familiar with the Nazca lines, they're in the southern part of Peru. They're visible mainly from the air. They come in the shapes of monkeys, birds, and other designs, and they date back for thousands of years. All right, a lot of questions still surrounding them. How did they create them? What did they do to do? Well, that's a big question about it. Well, researchers say they found the largest drawings in the world with satellite imagery. Check this out. A father and son pair of researchers are saying images found on the Indian desert near the town of Boha, India, are only completely visible from space. That's right, folks. And they add up to a total distance of 30 miles. 30 miles, Ike. Be a skeptic on this, my friend. One asymmetrical spiral measures more than 7.5 miles, while a second one, Ike, is nearly the same distance. Carlo and Johann Ottheimer, the Ottheimers, they say these geoglyphs, as they're called, are abstract drawings into the terrain, and they are the largest ever recorded, ever known. Who created them? They don't really know. Local experts, here's the thing that I'm kind of confused on. Local experts say it's unknown who created the lines or why, but they say the size of the lines are irrelevant because the creators were unaware of the size on a relative scale. What the hell does that mean?
I have no idea.
What does that mean?
That sounded like sheer nonsense. I know you tell me what it means.
The people that created these didn't know what they were creating because they had no idea then why did they create one that was 30 miles long?
It's sort of like this podcast.
There you go. There you go. 30 miles long. Think about that. Going in the sand, moving aside the rocks for 30 miles. How long do you think that took them? You're telling me they didn't know or weren't relative to size? Okay, I'll go with that.
Well, no. To be fair, I mean, what do you make of that?
Well, I mean, you got a lot of when we should have had Kenny on for this, but I think that a lot of things were created by man years ago using technology that was either lost over time or that we didn't give them the credit for back 3,000 years ago. Who says these guys 3,000 years ago couldn't do stuff like that? Who says they couldn't see from the skies? We don't know. Maybe the technology was lost. But there are, I have an idea they knew exactly what they were doing.
Now, to be fair, from the skeptic point of view, I do think there's something to that. I think we do have reason to believe, and I won't get into it, that humans in the past, 20, 30,000 years ago, were not entirely the same as they are now. They may have had slightly different mental capacities. They may have been able to judge things. I don't think that's entirely unreasonable, to be honest.
Well, they're still trying to figure out exactly how they created the pyramids.
I'm trying to figure out this podcast.
Well, there you go. You're still trying to figure out that. So there you go, folks. That's our news for the day. Next week, Ike will find a story for you as well. Ike, we got social media and a YouTube channel.
We do indeed. It's Twitter, Facebook Live every week. The YouTube stuff goes up shortly thereafter. And we also send up smoke signals. We have napkins that we write on in crayon. Sometimes we talk to ourselves in our sleep. Everyone's going to love it.
Yeah, and we're coming out with the highly popular Road Beyond lapel pins. We've been asked for in tie clips. We're looking at getting those as well. They'll be on our shop, so we'll have that posted as well. Look for us on YouTube as the Road Beyond Podcast, on Facebook, and of course on Twitter, we're Road_Beyond. Hey, Ike, have a good week.
And I will see you next time in a blurry video.
There you go. We'll see you next time on the Road Beyond.